Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. Took a little extra longer for those tubes to connect on this afternoon extravaganza that we're about to indulge in. We've got a lawsuit being filed against one communist mayor called Karen Bass out in Los Angeles that we're going to get into. Then we're talking about another communist on the other side of America. So we'll do West Side communism, East Side communism today as we unpack a very serious problem that's happening in America where communists seem like they're taking over some of our big cities. So quick preview, then we'll zoom in for further detail. You can see we got the DOJ filed a lawsuit and we're going to go through it. It's this one right here. Not too meaty, but a big one. We've seen a couple following the same pattern brought by Pam Bondi and other sanctuary cities, places like Chicago and elsewhere. But now LA is getting hit with it. So we'll go through this. We'll see what the lawsuit says. Of course, Tom Homan was out. We got reaction from him, and there's a bunch of garbage happening in the Senate. Apparently, there was an opportunity to kick illegal aliens off of Medicaid, but the Senate said that's not going to happen. No thanks. So they're going to keep them on Medicaid or something. Now, the big, beautiful bill is still working its way through Congress today. As usual, there's a bunch of garbage going in, garbage going out. And so we, as the peasants of America, have to just wait until they decide what's happening. And then we all get left with a big heaping bag of doo-doo. But we'll come back to that. We've got a bunch of stuff there. Then we'll talk about another communist called Mamdani. This guy right here, this clip is spreading around the internet like wildfire, and it's a real thing. We were like, this guy's a communist, right? Pretty sure. He finally came out. Now he's literally quoting Karl Marx, right? The end goal is seizing the means of production. And so we'll talk through this. Of course, we've got a bunch of reaction to this. The Democrats are spinning themselves into a tizzy over this dude. Several clips about just how much of a communist he actually is. And then we'll see what the Democrats have to say in response to it, because we've got a lot of back and forth here. Hakeem Jeffries should come out and support him, right? Fully endorse him, but he's not doing it. So we'll go through that. We got Richie Torres also doing the same thing, saying, you know, I'm not actually going to endorse him at the moment. And so we'll see what they have to say about it. So all that is coming up. And then, of course, we will hear from you. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope your weekend was outstanding and amazing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to our membos who also joined us as membos this morning on our members-only stream. We had a great time. We love our membos. We do member streams, and we'd love it if you joined us. It's a great way to meet some other people in our community, support our work here, and have some fun. So come check it out. Thanks for becoming a membo. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube. Click that join button, and we'll see you on the next members only stream. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in LA because a lawsuit has been filed. Communist sanctuary mayor Karen Bass out of Los Angeles now getting hit with a lawsuit filed by the United States of America in the District of California, suing the city of LA, Karen Bass, and a bunch of other people in LA, all in their official capacities. Now, this is being brought Central District of California by people that we're very familiar with here. Bilal Eseli and others, Drew Ensign all at the header here. And there were a bunch of announcements about this today. LA obviously is like the epicenter of illegal aliens taking over cities, along with New York. And here was what Bill Eseli had to say about it. He said, this morning, we filed a long overdue lawsuit challenging Los Angeles' sanctuary policies. Here's my full statement. It says, today's lawsuit holds the city of LA accountable for deliberately obstructing the enforcement of federal law. The United States Constitution's Supremacy Clause prohibits the city from picking and choosing which federal laws will be enforced and which will not. By assisting removable aliens in evading federal law enforcement, the city's unlawful and discriminatory ordinance has contributed to a lawless and unsafe environment that this lawsuit will help end. Now, there's been a bunch of entities working together to try to obstruct the enforcement of federal law to protect the illegal invaders of our country. And what we saw is this was actually shared by CNN, this app that somebody created, which is now crowdsourcing and flagging ICE sightings in real time. And CNN is like, go download this in the App Store. You're going to love it. Secretary Kristi Noem says, not so fast there. This sure looks like obstruction of justice, she said. Our brave ICE law enforcement face a 500% increase in assaults against them after these maniacs get a hold of this. Now, could you imagine, for example, if MAGA or the J6ers or the people who were supporting them like we were, if we all got together and were on an app and we're like, the feds are coming out to Georgia. The feds are coming out to Arizona. They're coming out to Indiana. They call us domestic terrorists. If you obstruct or assault law enforcement, we're going to hunt you down. You will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, says Kristi Noem. Here is the clip from CNN, right? And this is why this type of enforcement is necessary, because you've got these cabals of people who are working together, colluding to stop federal enforcement of the law. They said that the Proud Boys were in a Telegram group sharing around stupid messages that nobody would ever take seriously about anything. Sounds like a bunch of drunk text bros just, dumping garbage out. And some of it was like, we'll meet you over here, right? Some of it was legitimate, like they were talking about things, but there was a bunch of it. Then they went through, they said, oh, all these text messages are indicia of seditious conspiracy. And remember that crap? And they said the same thing with the Oath Keepers. There was some document that somebody wrote somewhere that put in the chat that talked about a quick reaction force, QRF team, and all this nonsense that some other person, probably a friend of Ray Epps, put in there. And then they faked the whole thing. Seditious conspirators, convicted them. They were going to put them in prison for 18, 20 years, some of them, who weren't even there. Enrique Tarrio was not even there on January 6th, nor was Stuart Rhodes, the so-called leaders of these two called seditious conspiracy groups. Who is the app creator here that we're about to watch? How is this person not the head of a seditious conspiracy to obstruct and facilitate the invasion and obstruction of federal agents? CNN, complicit in this conspiracy. Should be on the lookout for another indictment for them.
Steps up ICE raids and mass deportations. One tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. Senator Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether if they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump. But Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
Okay, well, I guess one point would be when you are facilitating mass obstruction of the law. And that's nice. We have an identity. And he actually is now on CNN. So Joshua Aaron, just imagine, I'm not joking about this. It's ICE Block. Imagine if you had FBI Block. Okay, and you had a bunch of people saying, well, we're not going to have the FBI coming in and kicking doors down of pro-lifers who are out there protesting at abortion clinics. Feds are coming to arrest the parents who are protesting at the kids' schools. Oh my gosh. You have your business open. Remember, like, what if we facilitated keeping businesses open? Or like a black market trade. Many of us were doing that. Hey, how many toilet paper rolls you got over there? Not enough, man. I've been hoarding many. How much can I get? 5 of those? 5 rolls? $500. You want it? It's good stuff. 2-ply. You know, it's a big battle. So if you were negotiating that, you were killing grandma, you're facilitating the death of your fellow citizen. You deserved a winter of misery and death. Constant nonsense. And now, if you have ICE block, maybe Christopher Wray block, or corrupt, Liz Cheney block, investigating the J6ers, they would take you down so fast. They would arrest you, man. Solitary confinement. But if you do it for illegal alien invaders, CNN will have you on their main page right here, creator. And then you have these dorks over here. It's interesting to see computer programmers. Some of them are very liberal. And they're supporting and they're standing up to all the others, unlike Elon. All right, so that's happening. Now, this is why we are suing these sanctuary cities, because it is outright obstruction. This is the whole point of the Supremacy Clause. We're not an Articles of Confederation. We're not a bunch of little, states who are just loosely connected together. If you've got one state that is going to be acting as an insurrectionary force in your nation and then siphoning off resources from the rest of the country's got an obligation to do something about that. And that's what's happening in California and elsewhere. And guess what? We want to do something about it. That's why we just had an election. And that's why we're going to do something about it. And the Supreme Court just said we got a lot more power to do it. So what we see is another post here from the DOJ writing, the Justice Department files a lawsuit against these sanctuary cities in California saying that LA is flouting federal law by prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens, and they're undermining law enforcement as seditious conspirators. And it ends under President Trump. We're not going to allow little Kilmars running around our country anymore, trafficking kids and molesting women above or underage, who knows, in and through our country anymore. So the lawsuit has now been filed. We got more of it coming up. This was the announcement. You can see Pam Bondi says on her first day, she instructed the Civil Division to identify state and local laws and policies that facilitate violations of federal law. Today's lawsuit is the latest in a bunch of other lawsuits, also hitting New York and New Jersey. So, filed in California, here's what we've got. Suing Karen Bass, sanctuary mayor and daughter of a communist in the Central District of California, right up Newsom's backyard, explaining, all right, court and Karen, you're now sued. In 2024, then candidate President Trump campaigned, and he won the presidential election on a platform of deporting the millions of illegal immigrants that the previous administration, Joe Biden, permitted into our country through its open borders policy to enter unlawfully. Now, days after President Trump won the November 5th election, the Los Angeles City Council, wishing to thwart the will of the American people regarding deportations, they began the process of codifying their sanctuary city policies. They threw a temper tantrum. Okay, just while Joe Biden was handing out gravy to Stacey Abrams, who was just under there, just slurping it up, have another billion, constantly. To all of them, ransacking the Treasury on the final days, they were also codifying a sanctuary city policy. Like, oh crap, Trump's going to come in here, better pass all this stuff immediately. You can see they did that. In fact, they passed an ordinance titled The Prohibition of the Use of City Resources for Federal Immigration Enforcement. They're like, oh crap, dad's home. Put everything away. Signed into law December 9th, 2024, knowing Trump's around the corner. Now, the express purpose of the LA Sanctuary City law is to thwart immigration and customs enforcement. It's the whole purpose, from carrying out their obligations as directed by Congress. Now, again, there's many reasons to sue LA for this. And so the idea is, what specifically have they done? And this is it, right? It's not like they are suing about some other new old policy. My first thought was like, oh, it's an old policy. California's been a sanctuary for basically ever. But this is not about all of that prior history per se. It's just this one change that came about. right after the election, and it's clearly spiteful. And that's what they're attacking. Now, it shows that there's probably a malicious political purpose to attack the federal government and Trump. We'll see where this goes. Now, the council members who passed this bill have run their mouths and publicly declared as such. In fact, this guy called Hugo Soto Martinez, I wonder what his constituency is made up of, says, "We refuse to stand by and let Trump deport," he says, probably American heroes or something, should be citizens, but they're illegal aliens. Now, the United States is currently facing a crisis of illegal immigration. Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border, January 20th, day 1, 2025. And writing, but its efforts to address that crisis are hindered by sanctuary city policies like what we've got in LA. They refuse to cooperate or share any information at all. Now, the city of LA and their laws are just illegal, what they passed. Those laws and policies are designed to, and in fact do, so they've got a bad purpose and a bad effect to interfere with and discriminate against the federal government and to stop federal immigration law. All of that in violation of the U.S. Constitution and the Supremacy Clause. Now, the challenged law and the policies of the city of LA, they obstruct the federal government. We need to do our jobs. And they're keeping Americans in harm's way by not allowing us to keep Americans safe. The practical upshot of LA's refusal to cooperate with federal immigration authorities since June 6 has been lawlessness, rioting, looting, vandalism. The situation became so dire that the federal government even deployed California National Guard and Marines to quell the chaos over there. And a direct confrontation with city immigration authorities was the inevitable outcome of the law. Everybody knew this was coming. Mayor of LA, Karen Bass, and their response to that confrontation is blaming ICE. She said, quote, "They entered our city and they provoked us in order to carry out federal immigration law." Executing the laws provoking what? The criminals? The illegals? Mayor Bass also claims that ICE has been operating in the city of LA merely as a pretext to federalize the National Guard. LA has sought to do nothing of the short of prohibiting ICE from operating within city limits, which is directly contrary to the law. Now, the DOJ suing Karen Bass for this and the city council for this, they write, "Sanctuary city laws and policies are designed to deliberately impede federal immigration officers and their ability and responsibilities in those locations. The LA Ordinance and other policies, they intentionally discriminate against federal agents. They treat federal immigration authorities different than other law enforcement agents through access restrictions to both property and individual detainees. They discriminate. The liberals discriminate based on the color of your uniform. Unbelievable. By prohibiting contractors and subcontractors wearing the wrong uniforms from providing information, and by disfavoring federal criminal laws that LA has decided not to comply with. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, Judge, prohibits LA and Mayor Bass and the City Council from singling out the federal government to be racist and discriminatory against their agents, as the challenged laws and policies do, thereby discriminating, yes, against the federal government. And so accordingly, the law and policies challenged here are invalid and should be enjoined. How dare they? Judge an agent by how they look. If it says ICE right here, bigots. Versus what? Some other, like an EPA agent shows up or something and you love that person? What's a nice federal agent? What, an IRS agent shows up? Like, come on in, have a nap. The LA Ordinance and other policies intentionally obstruct the sharing of information envisioned by Congress, and they're impairing federal apprehension and removal of these aliens. And this involves dangerous criminals, and we have to get them out. Now, these obstructionist sanctuary city laws preclude LA officials and law enforcement officials from procuring the arrests. And Congress has said we can do that. Now, the Supremacy Clause prohibits Karen from stopping us, and now she's being sued. We also are suing. The LA City Council sued. We got Marquise, Harris Dawson sued, along with the city of LA, all out of LA County. And obviously, we love this beautiful Constitution and quotes from it, writing this very important clause in the Constitution, explaining. The Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution provides that this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Now, under the Supremacy Clause, says Trump to Karen, a state law is preempted if it stands as an obstacle to the accomplishment of the full purposes of the objectives of Congress. A state law is also invalid if it discriminates against the United States or those with whom it deals, or if they think that they can regulate the federal government. That's not how that works. There's a chain of command here. Now, the United States has well-established preemptive authority to regulate immigration. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution said Congress has the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, saying the government of the United States has broad, undoubted power over the subject of immigration and the status of aliens, not the states. The United States authority to regulate immigration matters derives from the U.S. Constitution, numerous acts of Congress, binding Supreme Court precedent, lots of support there. Indeed, Congress strengthened that authority this year with the enactment of another bill called the Laken-Riley Act, just passed 2025, which mandates the federal detention of illegal immigrants who are accused of theft, burglary, assaulting an officer, or any crime that causes death or serious bodily injury. Democrats hate it. We have to hold on to them so you can come get them if they beat somebody or burglarize somebody. We have to hold them in our jails. Yes, you do. And if you let them out, we'll go get them at the courts, or we'll go get them at the grocery store. If you don't want to keep them, you should have kept them, and we don't have to go track them down. Accordingly, Congress has the right, writes Trump, to Karen, as it may see fit, to expel aliens of a particular class or to permit them to remain. And Congress has undoubtedly the right to take all proper means to carry out the system which it provides. We have exclusive control over aliens. States don't. And so thus, the federal government has devised an extensive and complex statutory scheme. And we have a whole bunch of rules. We have immigration attorneys, entire courts dedicated to this, all for the governance of immigration and alien status. That wasn't, of course, until Judge Boasberg, Zenas, and Murphy decided they were the new presidential judges of America. Turn those planes around and bring those aliens back. Pause them in the Sudan over there. The scheme codifies the executive's authority to inspect, investigate, arrest, detain, or remove aliens who are suspected of being or found to be unlawfully in the United States. And this power has existed forever. Trump is just using it now. Now they're saying, well, he's using it aggressively, so we should change the standards. That's not what the law says. They want now suddenly everybody to only be deported if they've been convicted of a crime for some reason. That was never the standard at all. If you're here illegally, you're here illegally, and you're subject to removal, period. Don't have to go kill somebody in order to be qualified for removal. Now, you might say that, is there a better indicia? Well, maybe you keep the good ones, get rid of the bad ones, whatever that argument is. But it's the point is, the standard is now not criminal conviction before you're subject to removal. And this has always been the situation until recently, when we had a judicial coup and an insurrection by the black robes. Now, through this scheme, Congress has specified which aliens may be removed. Got a bunch of laws about it. We've read through many of them here in all the litigation. Moreover, Congress has affirmatively outlawed any effort to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection any illegals. Don't hide them and be fraudulent. The immigration laws, if you take them together, they say the executive has authority to manage this affair. Additionally, in consultation with a bunch of other people, this is ours. Now, the immigration law provides for basic principles of cooperation. Got a bunch of codes. U.S. code, this section over here, saying federal authorities must make available investigative sources to states, and states may not restrict information going back. Now, critically, Congress passed the latter provision to fix a specific problem. State and local authorities may not prohibit or in any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to federal immigration agencies information about citizenship or immigration status, right? That's a big one. 1373B. Feds will help the states. Last president, so-called, did not. They helped the states cause an invasion, passed a bunch of money to pay them to facilitate the invasion, created Uber illegal alien so they could hop on airplanes and fly their families into our country, and then said a temporary protected status because their pupusas are under attack in El Salvador. Then all of a sudden, we pass some new laws, or we have a new president rather, and the president enforces the existing law and says that even the states now cannot be obstructionist back towards the feds. So the feds will work with the states will work with the feds. Critically, Congress passed this because certain states and localities were restricting their officials' cooperation with federal immigration authorities. And so Congress said, you can't do that anymore. They passed Section 1373. Congress, in doing so, sought to give state and local officials the authority to communicate with the feds. If your local people say you can't talk to us, well, we got the Supremacy Clause. We say you can, so come on over here. Even under the Ninth Circuit improperly narrow interpretation of this provision, they cannot be restricted, these officials, from sharing a person's legal classification under the law. Now, it's probably a difference between can and shall. Yeah, like may not prohibit them. So let's say, LA and the city council can't prohibit the Secretary of State or let's say that'd be California, level, or even a county recorder or something like that from reporting to the feds. Can't pass a law saying you can't give them info, but doesn't mean that person would give them info if it's discretionary to them. So it says must make available, right? Federal authorities must make available to them, but may not prohibit any official from sending. But I don't know if there's an affirmative duty anywhere elsewhere in the law to send the info. So in other words, you could have an obstinate official who's not compelled by the law, not prohibited, but also not going to be cooperative regardless. So we continue. Now, here's what happened. The city of LA used to not be a dump. It used to cooperate with enforcement of federal immigration law before they got invaded and taken over by the illegals. In 1979, back during a better time, remember when you could walk around San Francisco without stepping in crap all over the place? Beach Boys were still singing. The Office of the Chief of Police in 1979, in fact, he issued a special order requiring LA Police Department detectives to keep an arrest log of the illegals. Shout out to that dude. Notify the federal government of the arrests and forward a daily report listing all the arrests to the federal government. And by the way, that order remains in force. It was back in 1979 that guy did it. It's still in force, but not enforced. In 2017, the California State Legislature, 17, enacted House Bill 54, the California Values Act. Oh, that sounds nice over there. The Office of the Chief of Police for the LAPD in implementing the Values Act of California restricted cooperation with federal immigration authorities because they've got values and the rest of us don't. Have you seen their parades over there in San Francisco or whatever there were these past weekends? Man, some of them on your timeline on X, you got to be very careful on that. See some California values out there on the streets. In order that the LAPD shall not investigate, interrogate, detain, or arrest a person for civil immigration purposes or inquire into their immigration status. Now, the Chief of Police's guidance requires LAPD personnel to obtain approval from the department's liaison officer before even transferring somebody to ICE custody, right? So a major roadblock, like your guidance says, well, if you're going to give them to ICE, like so let's say this dude has broken into our country 5 times and probably R'd a couple people, maybe M'd a couple people, trafficking in the kids, maybe one of the 300,000 that it came across that they came across, like openly came across, that they don't know where they're at. They say, we're going to give this person to ICE. Bad dude. We got to get rid of him. We can't charge him for this, but we know he's a bad dude. Sorry, you got to go to the immigration liaison officer, which is probably an illegal alien, who is going to then say, well, do you have probable cause for this? There's only a couple serious felonies that we can keep him for. Other LAPD policies are explained in their FAQ. Question, does the LAPD transfer arrestees to ICE for civil immigration violations? No. The LAPD does not transfer arrestees for civil immigration violations, which is just a nice way of saying that person has not been charged with a crime for illegal reentry. Does the LAPD extend an arrestee's time in jail based solely on the detainer request? So in other words, if you house this person, let's say this person is under federal custody for doing something, state custody for doing something bad, they get a notice from ICE. Hold on to this person, please. We'll be there on Friday. Judge said, or there's a bond hearing or something. Will you hold on to him and honor that detainer? Judges, courts, LAPD, no. Under state law, we're prohibited from detaining an individual based on a, quote, hold or an immigration detainer request, which is curious, right? Then they start freaking out. They're like, well, why are you coming to our neighborhoods? Why are you coming to our place of business? Why are you coming to court? Well, it's because you're not holding these people. If you held them, then we would just get them when you have them in custody. It's not a big deal. Just give them to us. They don't want to do it because they're obstructionists. Will the LAPD extend an arrestee's time in custody? If we have a warrant, if we send you a warrant, okay, maybe if it's not just a request, how about a warrant? No. LAPD requires a judicial probable cause determination and a judicial warrant from some Article 3 court, which is not the standard. These are illegal aliens, authorizing an officer to arrest and take into custody the individual for a federal criminal investigation or other crime, right? So like the standard is extremely high. So we're not going to give aliens up to ICE. So ICE has to come get them. And if you're going to obstruct that, then well, you're committing more federal crimes. So now you're being sued. LA's new sanctuary law goes much farther than other sanctuary laws in obstructing immigration operations. They directly undermine the federal government. So on December 9th, after Trump won, they all freaked out everywhere. Stacey Abrams starts getting fatter at the trough. The city of Los Angeles enacted its sanctuary city law titled The Prohibition of Money for Feds. The ordinance was expeditiously processed because they knew Trump was coming and they're like, go, go, go. How fast can you get copies done? At the time, the sanctuary law sponsors explained, they said the following: we refuse to stand back while Donald Trump tries to deport our neighbors, family, friends, coworkers, their entire constituency. More recently, Mayor Karen in LA, who signed the ordinance into law, signaled her desire, right? The intent and the effect of the law, the intent is to thwart federal immigration policy. It doesn't just happen to thwart immigration policy, like the intent was to accomplish some other objective, and it happens to do this. The intent is to protect property rights and to make sure that people can pay their mortgages. And so we're going to just focus on sending our people back to their homes and not letting them be deported so they can continue to work, to not rebuild our cities in LA, and then, which burnt down, and then we'll just allow them to exist here and the feds won't have any funding, right? And that's the justification for it, but the effect is to obstruct immigration law. Nothing like that. Come up with whatever reason you want. It's intentionally trying to stop the feds. Said, I want to tell him, says Karen Bass, about President Trump to stop the raids. And peace begins with ICE leaving LA because it's their territory now. This is the Reconquista. We know we have the Claudia Sheinbaum president, and the Mexican Senate president saying this is our land, holding maps up into the air on camera. Now, the ordinance prohibits city officials, including law enforcement officers, from participating in federal civil immigration enforcement in a couple of ways. It says no Los Angeles city personnel are authorized to. Wow, and that sounds like it's in direct violation of federal law. Like directly. No personnel are authorized to inquire into or collect information about immigration status. No one. Okay, so I guess for elections, MVD, nothing. Unless that information is used to provide services to that individual, whatever that means. You also cannot investigate or detain any person for immigration purposes, and you cannot respond to any administrative warrant or any other status requests about a person and for immigration enforcement purposes. So you can't work with the feds basically at all. You can't look into anything, set up policies to do that. You can't investigate, detain if someone else is looking into them. And if they ask for information, can't give that to them either. You cannot give them access to any non-public areas. Don't let them in the building. Make any person in city custody available for ICE. Don't give them to them. Don't let them in the building. Don't let them ask them questions. Do not participate in any ICE operation, joint operation, or joint task force involving immigration. Can't do any of it. LA, direct obstruction of the federal government. Furthermore, the ordinance provides that no city personnel shall provide access to any city data or information that can be used to determine or trace a person's citizenship status either. And this is wild that LA does this. I mean, think about this. Like, what if Texas did this? What if Texas said, you know what? We're not going to give the IRS any information at all. And in fact, nobody here in our state can give the IRS anything. Or whatever. We're not, whatever entity, any federal regulatory entity, we're going to drill our own oil. EPA wants some information from our people. They want to come and regulate our land and our oil fields. It's our land. Get out of here. And they just created ordinances. No one in Texas can cooperate with the EPA at all. Drill whatever you want. And we're just going to do whatever we want. Would that be a problem? I think a lot of people would say, well, that feels like it's an insurrectionary force towards a federal agency. Okay, liberals would be losing their friggin' mind over that. Or they did some, there was some very red city. Texas would never do that. I mean, Texas talks a lot. I love Texas, but they talk a lot like, federal government, this and that and the other, like secure our own border and all that stuff. And, it's very like what LA has done here is like wild compared to anything else we've seen from it. It's like an open insurrection. They passed a law, basically. We're just going to openly violate and not cooperate with a federal agency. Texas do that with the wires? I mean, not really. Kind of. Like there was a little bit of a battle there at the border. Ultimately, I think they won that on that litigation, but they're in compliance, which they should. I mean, it's a state. It's a supremacy clause issue. Like Texas is not, I'm not trying to blame Texas. I'm just saying like Texas has this reputation of being like this ornery state that is very aggressive and like, this is our Texas, like come and take it and all that stuff. Like that's not at all. Like this is that. I mean, this is them saying this is our city. F you to ICE. We're not cooperating with you. Your warrants be damned. It's like a takeover of property in a way, right? It's openly, flagrantly violating federal enforcement, right? Texas has never done anything like that. And I'm saying that I appreciate how, even one agency, when many of us were saying, just tell Joe Biden to just shove it, right? Put the barbed wire up, do whatever you want. It really didn't get that confrontational. But imagine if they would have done something. This is our land. We're going to build all these walls. Let's use the border as an example. And we're just going to secure everything here, right, moving forward on our own terms. They call it an insurrection. But this is allowed. This is embraced by the Democratic Party openly. Now, the ordinance, which prohibits city personnel from sharing status, defines that term capaciously to include everything, all information, classification about the person. It also defines immigration agent as individuals engaged in immigration enforcement. It's broad. It covers everything. Thus, Cooperation is barred with respect to serious federal felonies. You can't even cooperate if it's a major crime, including re-entry of convicted aggravated felons. Why would they do this to their own people? Is their constituency sympathetic to these people, like aggravated felons? Do they think Trump is calling them aggravated felons? Or is it what Mamdani says, that violence is a social construct? It's very strange. Now, it feels suicidal to me. Like, why would a city want this to happen? Why would city councils be wanting to cooperate, or not cooperate rather, to allow serious federal felons to not go free? Why is that? Finally, the city council added an urgency clause to the ordinance, which admits that the purpose of the law is to thwart incoming federal administration. They're so dumb. They put the intent of the law is to thwart the incoming Trump administration from carrying out his immigration policies. They say because the city of LA found that Trump's immigration policies will affect the public peace, health, and safety, it decided to limit the city's cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Yeah. Now, the city of LA and the city administrator released an employees relations bulletin back recently, June 6, specifying to the heads of the city department, they said the following: if a city facility is not open to the general public, then city personnel should not grant immigration officers entry to that facility unless they've got a judicial warrant or a similar court order. And so they're just saying, nope, we're locking the doors. Our constituents are the illegals, and we're going to protect them against federal enforcement. Now, the city obstruction continued. On June 6, ICE conducted operations to arrest criminal aliens in LA, who they love. Those operations succeeded in apprehending individuals convicted of murder, burglary, domestic violence, offenses of the sexual variety, and violent crimes. Why would any city council member be opposed to those people being arrested? The same day, the response to these arrests of convicted criminals from rioters was throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails at law enforcement, defacing public property, setting cars on fire, defacing buildings, assaulting law enforcement, burning American flags. Oh, that was the peaceful protest, remember, too. On June 7th, Trump, finding that numerous incidents of violence had occurred, deployed the National Guard. They came down. We know what happened. On June 10th, in the midst of these riots and protests, LA City Council member, including Jim and Police Chief Jim McDonnell, was called before the City Council. Rather than encourage closer cooperation with the feds to prevent further unrest, Council member Imelda Padilla, don't know if she has any relation to Senator Jose, asked the chief to undermine federal enforcement actions by warning the city council of impending raids. McDonnell correctly identified. He said, I can't do that, you crazy lady. That would be obstruction of justice. You want me to warn you of impending ICE raids? Are you nuts? At the same meeting, City Council President Marquise said of the federal immigration officials, said, if we know somebody is coming here to do warrantless abductions of the residents of this city, those are not our partners. I don't care what badge they have on or whose orders they're under. They're not our partners. Got a bunch of insurrectionists there. Furthermore, on June 12th, Mayor Bass responded to the public disturbances by blaming ICE's enforcement of immigration law for the rioting lawlessness. Last Thursday, ICE entered our city and provoked the city by enforcing the law, by chasing people, you mean criminal aliens? Rather than choose to cooperate with the enforcement of federal law, Bass has called for Trump, let the illegals stay and live. Stop the raids, please. Now, the impact of LA's policies are bad. Says that Border Patrol and enforcement in LA is happening. And in particular, we're responsible for enforcing immigration laws at international ports and LA International Airport. Federal law says that ICE and Homeland will be able to inspect all applicants for admission. Now, what LA has done with their city ordinance has gone beyond what controlling precedents have said are permissible. Congress, in fact, expressly prohibited any federal, state, or local entity from prohibiting, right? We read the law specifically, in any way from restricting any official from sending information to the feds. And the ordinance is plainly violating that. It says it prohibits city employees from sending info to the feds. The congressional law says you can't have that. Ordinance from California runs afoul directly of U.S. code. It forbids the LAPD and other law enforcement officers or officials from communicating with ICE or Border Patrol regarding citizenship status. It is exactly the type of information that the court in another case held it could not withhold. The city of LA cannot point to the purported savings clause in the ordinance. The ordinance does not allow this use of city resources, they say. So it's not that they can't do it. It's just that they can't use city resources to do it. So like they have to go get their own printer paper or something and their own stamps to mail it in. Well, if you want all these documents, I guess I got to go mail it myself. And I don't want to come out of pocket for this. And I can't use city resources. So if I can't put it in FedEx, it's a lot of paper and I'm not going to pay for it. Guess you're not going to get the records. Los Angeles has therefore prohibited the activities that federal law expressly requires that will not be restricted by creating a confusion, a statutory carve-out for this provision. We know it's just an obstacle. The ordinance, also from California, fails to provide the requisite access that California law requires. Here, it's also violating intergovernmental immunity doctrines too. By prohibiting access to city property, they improperly regulate federal immigration authorities while not regulating others. They can't put regulations on the federal government. They're just a state. Now, additional, in this case, a county, LA. Now, the ordinance is preempted by a federal law. It's actually the city, right? Because it illegally discriminates against federal law and against federal immigration authorities. First, the ordinance prohibits immigration agents from accessing any non-public areas of property. No exceptions, not even for interviews or for criminal investigations at all. Not even California sanctuary statutes go that far. And second, the LA ordinance discriminates against federal law enforcement based on the color of their badge. Which I thought liberals wanted more diversity and equity. Apparently not more diversity of federal agents. It favors non-federal authorities and picks and chooses among federal law enforcement authorities. Very bigoted. By prohibiting ICE and Border Patrol, but not other law enforcement. They love like the financial guys. Oh yeah, you're going to go investigate some big billionaires or something? They love them. From accessing city property and from the interviewing detainees, the ordinance further discriminates against the federal government. And third, the ordinance also discriminates between certain federal criminal laws. It actually requires non-compliance with federal laws, saying that they have no lawful interest in assisting this. What is their basis for this? This was our question. What is their lawful interest in assisting removable aliens in evading federal law enforcement? How is that helping the citizens? What is the argument for that? Well, they deserve some process or something. Okay, they're getting it. Yeah, I mean, they're getting arrested. They're getting removed. They're being processed according to standard immigration removal proceedings. They're criminals. They have ties to the community or something. Okay, so does every other criminal in the world. Like, why would they facilitate? Would California help another state if it was a citizen? Let's say this. Let's say you've got somebody who's in California. They just left Massachusetts. They fly all the way across the country to California. They got like 50 different warrants in Massachusetts for like 1 million different things. Massachusetts says we want to get that person in California back here because we want to charge them with crimes. California would obviously comply with that, right? Clearly. Oh, it's another citizen. You got an interstate compact. Massachusetts has a warrant, multiple felonies. They take that person right up. You're gone. And they would hold you too. You get arrested for DUI in California. Oh, you got a Massachusetts warrant for your arrest? Like a big one, a felony one? They'll hold you and ship you back over there. But you're just a citizen. You don't get special protections. Illegal aliens who have felonies, and other crimes, California will protect them in a way that no other state would allow. and the country should not allow, and that is suicidal for California. And there's no basis for this at all. What is the justification for that? Other than a huge part of their constituency are these people, and they're the ones demanding action from their elected representatives because they're really running things around there, and it is their people. They think that this is their land. They think this is the middle of the Reconquista supported by the Mexican government, and that's about the only explanation I can come up with. Otherwise, they have no lawful interest. What else is it? The city of LA and its officials through the ordinance have singled out the federal government. The ordinance and the policies of LA are an obstacle to our enforcement of federal law, and they're violating the Supremacy Clause. So here's our counts. Count 1, violation of the Supremacy Clause. Your ordinance is in direct contravention to congressional statutes, and it is preempted by the requirements of the congressional law. So federal law preempts, therefore, California LA law. And because your ordinance violates the Supremacy Clause, it is interfering with federal enforcement of immigration rules. Count 2, you're also unlawfully regulating the federal government. You're trying to single out federal immigration officials. You can't do that. You're prohibiting law enforcement agencies from complying with valid warrants. And you're also refusing to honor civil detainers and warrants, all of the types that were explicitly authorized by congressional law. So you're violating the Supremacy Clause again. And you're also discriminating against our agents. You're singling out immigration authorities based on the color of their uniforms and the content of their badges. Bigoted. The ordinance specifically discriminates against ICE by picking and choosing what federal immigration and criminal laws it's going to follow. And the ordinance is specifically targeting ICE in 4 ways. It says no property, says you can't make anybody available to them to talk to. You can't even communicate with them about their status, and other prohibitions. Now, this is discriminatory targeting against ICE agents. For this additional reason, this ordinance violates the Supremacy Clause. And so, for these reasons, the Trump DOJ filing another sanctuary city lawsuit against another sanctuary city, perhaps the behemoth of them all, maybe the final boss of the game. I don't know. Is New York the final boss, or is LA? It's probably LA. We'll see. Now, we'll come back on this one, but the lawsuit has been filed, and so it is now going to go to court, and we'll see what the city does. It would be very nice if they complied. I'm sure their constituents, not the illegals, would be very happy to know that they're working with ICE to get rid of serious felons, at least. But they won't even do that. So we saw that our useless Senate apparently is going to continue to fund illegal aliens via Medicare. Eric Doherty posted this one saying, breaking, the U.S. Senate rejects a measure now to kick illegal aliens off of Medicaid, which is wild they're even on there. Said it was going to need 50 votes, but the Democrat parliamentarian said, sorry, you're going to need a bunch more votes. You need 60 votes to take it up on top. And now we'll see what ends up in the bill. But Tom Homan was also out today talking about a lot of this immigration stuff. Here's a little bit of Tom out and about at the White House.
Hotel workers. I mean, is there a plan to go after them later?
I'm not going to get ahead of the president on that. I know they're discussing that. I'm part of those discussions, but I'm not going to get ahead of the president. We'll see what they come up with.
Mr. Homan, last week ICE arrested 11 Iranians passed through border during Biden administration. One of them was a sniper for the Iranian army. The other one while he was arrested, he had firearms on him. Given the fact that the Iranian American community are feeling threatened by the regime from Iran, can you confirm that there will be further crackdown on illegal Iranians who've passed the border during Biden administration?
Well, so far there's over 200 arrests of Iranian nationals. And again, you know, President Trump committed from day one, the priority is going to be public safety threats and national security threats. So We've been on this since January 20th. We didn't wait for the Iran conflict to happen. We've been working this, but we put our foot on the gas after what happened in Iran a couple weeks ago. We're going to identify the national security threats. It's just not ICE, it's FBI, it's the Department of Justice and the intelligence community. We're focusing on national security threats, not just Iranians and others, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're keeping President Trump's promise. That's what we were prioritizing.
There's widespread fear among...
If you're in the country legally, you should be concerned. It's not okay to be in the country illegally. If you're a national security threat, you should be working. We're looking for you.
Yeah.
There's widespread fear among Iranian Americans that some sleeper cells have moved into the United States during the Biden administration. What do you know about these so-called sleeper cells?
All Americans should be concerned about sleeper cells. Look, under the Biden administration, he opened the border. We got over 2 million known gotaways. That's not a guess. Over 2 million people we know based on video, drone traffic, sensor traffic, cross the border. They paid more to get away. We know who they are, where they came from, where they are now, why they're here, right? So why did 2 million people pay more to get away? You pay the cartel amount of money to get to the border, turn yourself in a green uniform, right? Or you pay more to get to New York, Chicago, and not be arrested. Why? Why didn't they pay less to get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, a free hotel room, 3 meals a day, free medical care, and work authorization in a few months? Why did 2 million people not take advantage of the free giveaway program, pay more to get away?
So are you saying that
because they didn't want to be vetted, they didn't want to be fingerprinted. They could be the ones that are trafficking in fentanyl, they could be ones trafficking women and children, and they could be national security threats. I said from day one, the Biden administration, I said for 4 years while he was president, when they opened the border up, they created the biggest national security vulnerability we've ever seen. And that's just a fact, and we're seeing it play out.
Lastly, there's a fatwa issued by 2 of the Iranian ayatollahs against President Trump, citing that if he attacks the supreme leader of Iran, it would be halal for Shiite followers to kill him, to assassinate him. Are you aware of that fatwa, and what's your response to it?
Look, it's a little out of my lane, but we got the strongest president in history of this country in office right now. So I don't think that worked out very well for him.
So there are Marines stationed right now in the San Diego area helping with border protection. If encounters have dropped as dramatically as we know that we've seen the numbers drop, why is it necessary for a Marine presence to be there near the San Diego border?
Because it's a national security issue right now. I think we all recognize the national security temperature right now is at a high level. We're going to take every opportunity we can to secure that border and make sure we don't do what Biden administration did and let the gotaways. Let me give you, for example, having those resources on the border now, on an average day under Biden administration, we had 1,800 gotaways that we knew of, that we counted in 1,800. You know what they were today? 18. So we got that border locked down.
So then why is it necessary for the Marine presence to be there in addition to the regular border?
So there's less gotaways. The more resources we have, the more people we stop from coming in the country. Especially right now during national security, the vulnerability we have right now with Iran and other countries, I'd rather have too many resources than not enough. Because once you make that mistake, there's no going back.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Can you talk about that a little bit further in light of the July 4th holiday and what security threats are being watched right now, concerns about sleeper cells or other things that have been in the country?
Like the DHS put out a threat assessment 2 weeks ago, I agree with that. We are in heightened alert status right now, so every American needs to keep their eye open. Again, there's several places to report suspicious activity. You go to the DHS hotline and report it there. But look, today we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. You can have some comfort of that. But the reason we have the most secure border in the history of this nation is because of President Trump's policy and having DOD assets assist Border Patrol on the border. That's why we have that most secure border, which is why we need the big, beautiful bill passed. Because that puts more Border Patrol agents on the border, maybe relieve DOD assets. That puts more ICE agents on the streets of this country to arrest more public safety threats and national security threats. I looked at numbers this morning. Over 200 Iranian nationals have been arrested by ICE and brought in. With more resources, we do more than national security work across the country. But right now, we got well over 20 million illegal aliens in this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. We need the bill to get more agents on the street. We need more detention beds. Everybody arrested needs to be a bed before they get removed. And more contract work, so badges and guns who have immigration authority aren't sitting at a desk doing keystrokes on some administrative duty that can be done by a contractor, put that badge and gun on the street to look for these national security threats. Big, beautiful bill is important. We need that passed right away.
Quick question for you. There are reports of a 75-year-old Cuban national who died in ICE custody. He had lived in the United States for 60 years. He was being held in ICE detention in Florida. Is there anything you can tell us about that? There's still not a lot of information, how he died.
I'm unaware of that. I'm not aware of that. I mean, people die in ICE custody. People die in county jails. People die in state prisons. I mean, if you look at, when I was ICE director and we drilled down that, the question should be how many lives does ICE save? Because when they go in detention, we find many with diseases and stuff that we deal with right away to prevent death. So I'm not aware of that specific case, but I'll say this. People can argue with me all they want, but the facts are the facts. I think that politicians in New Jersey found this out, that we have the highest detention standards in the industry. I'll compare an ICE detention facility against any state prison, against any federal facility. I'll go head to head with any of them.
Go to Big Fannies.
You go to ice.gov and look at our detention standards. It's the highest detention standards in the industry at a very expensive cost to the taxpayers. So, people say, oh, the detention standards are horrendous. Go look for yourself, then come back and talk to me. I mean, when we talked about the facility that the congressman tried to get into up in New Jersey, Delaney Hall, once they got in there, what did they find out? Detention standards are outstanding. Probably the cleanest facility in that entire state. Again, I'll put our detention standards against anybody.
So we'll follow up on that. When the big, beautiful bill does pass, how do you expect that to impact the number of deportations per day? Will it be twofold, threefold?
Vastly increased. Depends how quick we get more resources on, how quick we get the contractors on, how quick we bring the beds on.
Those numbers up.
I mean, Governor DeSantis, I give him credit. We got the facility he's putting up in Florida. We'll be filling those beds as quick as we can because we need more beds.
Trump's going there tomorrow, too.
I mean, I looked at this morning. I think we got like 1,700 empty beds. We'll fill them in 2 days. So we need more beds. That bill is going to let us sign contracts that are pending for more beds. We don't have the funding to do it. Once that bill passes and the money comes to the Department of Homeland Security, we can sign some of this contract and get more beds right away.
And on the big, beautiful bill, Mr. Holman, thank you so much for doing this and this week with us. We know that President Trump is visiting Alligator Alcatraz tomorrow in Florida. Can you tell us more about what message it sends and how it relates to the administration's push right now with the big, beautiful bill?
We're going to force the immigration law. Despite all the rhetoric out there against ICE and the men and women who are doing this job, we're going to be out doing their job. We're going to be doing our job. We're going to arrest every public safety threat, national security threat we can find. And when we do that, we need a bed. Governor DeSantis is coming forth with a couple thousand beds. I applaud him for doing it. And it's a pretty good cost, too, if you look at the total cost of that bill. Money that used to go to NGOs, put somebody in a hotel room at $500 a night, will help fund these facilities. And here's what you need to know that no one talks about. Facilities that we contract through, like the Governor DeSantis facility, when you're in an ICE contract facility, you get a hearing and a judge within 40 days. But under the Biden administration, they put them in custody of an NGO, put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, because they know doing that would push their hearing out 3, 5, 7 years, because immigration judges prioritize those in detention. So they play the long game. Let's leave thousands of empty ICE beds already paid for. Let's leave them empty. Let's give these people to NGOs. That pushes the hearing out 3, 5, 7 years. What happens then? What they're hoping happens then? There's a Democratic administration that awards amnesty to millions of people. That's not going to happen. We're going to force the laws in this country. People are going to get hearings quicker. And if anybody goes and look at EOIR website, Immigration Court website, here's what the message no one gets across. You can claim asylum in this country. If you go the last 10 years of Immigration Court data, nearly 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum get an order of removal because they simply don't qualify for asylum. They're not escaping fear and persecution from the homeland because of race, religion, political affiliation. They're coming here for a better life, and I get that. But that's not asylum. We're enforcing laws, and the great success we're having proves you enforce the law, you can secure the border. You enforce the law, you can make this country safe again. That's what we're doing.
Are there any more military
All right, Tom Homan.
Any more on the border?
All right, so good stuff there. Lots of Tom Homan, and we're happy that he's out there talking to the media, explaining what's happening next. He mentioned Alligator Alley that is happening. Alligator Alcatraz is the name, which is also good. Says here from another post from Eric Dougherty, shared this one. Ron DeSantis was out giving us a tour of what's coming up in Alligator Alcatraz.
No problem, but all the stuff that goes into intake and processing of illegals, you're seeing this put up. This is all 24 hours. 24 hours from now, you're going to see even more. And by Tuesday, this will be able to have intake of illegals.
And you've thought of everything. Okay, so there are 4 gigantic tents. Let's come on over here, Governor. And people are thinking, okay, you're in the middle of the Everglades. It's hot. That would explain why you've got this bank of air conditioners here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed. There'll be places for them to be housed. You'll have an ability for food. You'll have an ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facilities.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
Where do you go to get a bunch of bathrooms like that?
Well, so this is being done by the Division of Emergency Management. So when we have a hurricane, like we would actually have people stage here for hurricane response normally, anyways, but we have it. When we have all the linemen come in to do the power, we have to set up little areas for them. And so you have all this type of stuff. So this is not our first rodeo. The detainee illegal alien mission's a little bit different, and the deportations, but logistics, we know how to do that.
Right. And
all right, so Alligator Alcatraz happening there in Florida. We've got Pam Bondi, the Trump DOJ, suing the communist Mayor Bass in LA to end the sanctuary policies, which are in the law directly opposed to the federal government law. And we'll see what the California judges do with that one. So, my friends, we'll keep our eye on this one. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, so let's change gears a little bit and talk about another communist on the other side of the country. And we've got some good questions about what should be done about Mamdani. Ducey asked Caroline Leavitt about Mamdani, this new communist out of New York, who is emerging to capture the eye of a lot of other communists throughout our country. And Ducey asked a specific question about this fella called Andy Ogles, who we've talked about before, who made an interesting observation about who he calls Little Muhammad, Mamdani. He said, you know, he should be denaturalized. And I know what a lot of people's initial instinct is denaturalize a citizen? Why? Because of his political opinions? Actually, no. No one's talking about his free speech. I mean, yes, they are. They're talking about him being anti-Semitic and socialist and communist and all those things. But the question, of course, is did he lie? Was he fraudulent in his application for naturalization to become a U.S. citizen like 6 years ago? And what we saw originally in the letter that we'll get asked about, and we got some follow-up questions on this, is about this phrase called globalize the Intifada, where he has an opportunity to condemn it, but doesn't condemn it. He's asked about it. Does he want to globalize the Intifada in America? It's a curious question. Writing rap songs about it, and may have not disclosed any of that stuff on his form. And the form, of course, says, and when you're going through the naturalization process, you should be disclosing your connections with groups like Hamas or other groups who want to, you know, globalize the Intifada. So that came out. Now, that's causing a lot of ruckus. Andy Ogles has been capturing a lot of attention on this and saying, time to denaturalize him, right? There's a process for this. Just like any other contract, if you are fraudulent in your representations and you have been discovered to be fraudulent, the side that is not fraudulent can make the argument that you have now breached that contract, right? And claim damages, which in this case would be, you're not a citizen anymore. We have a denaturalization process. And so Ducey asked Caroline about this. Is this a real possibility? Andy Ogles, of course, sent that letter to Pam Bondi to see if Pam is going to open up an inquiry into this fella. Here is how this exchange went.
Congressman Andy Ogles, he wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And could President Trump see himself, you said you just talked to him about this, could he see himself working with a Mayor Mamdani somebody who on Meet the Press this weekend was given 3 chances to condemn the phrase globalize the Intifada, but he couldn't.
Yeah, look, the president is always willing to work with everyone. He's working with Democrats across the country, Democrat governors, and he said he'll work with people on the far left. He works with Republicans. He works with people in the middle. He wants to do what's right for America, but surely someone who holds these values and is quite literally a communist and condemns every value that makes this country great. Common sense, law and order, low taxes, working hard, and earning your keep in this country. He's against all of that, and I think the president would find it difficult to work with someone like that. If he is elected, I'm sure you'll hear more from the president on that, but we'll have to see. Hopefully the voters of New York City choose wisely.
She's right. He is a communist. He keeps calling himself a democratic socialist or whatever that is, which is just a euphemism for communist. Just call yourself, like they like to change labels and say that they're things that they're not. We're like, dude, we all know what you are. You're not a Democrat socialist, okay? Put whatever you want on. Chop off something, whatever, add that, whatever. We know. You're a communist. All right, don't try to fool us. So we have seen it. Now there's reaction to this that is percolating out there. And this was a great clip captured by our friend Maze on X. We're going to repost this puppy at the top of our timeline so you can give him a follow. But he said this, look, this is not terrible AI. Kind of looks like it's one of those Zoom or Google Meet backgrounds that, you know, looks good. Wow, you're in space. This is so cool. It's a real message from the current front runner called Mamdani. He actually said this, right? This is all open now. It says, the end goal of seizing the means of production, which is straight out of Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto. And that's what they are doing. And he's got a lot of support there in New York. This is the new Democratic Party. Here's what this clip sounded like.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production.
Oh,
where we do not
communist! Our end goal of seizing the means of production. It's straight out of the Communist Manifesto. It's in there. So he's just going to go on. We don't need to listen to more communism, but he's pretty well polished for a communist. And of course, communism has a lure to it for a lot of people for whatever reason. Apparently they're not good students of history, or maybe they were just born with too much of a silver spoon in their mouths and they don't understand the human incentive problem that happens to exist and why these little ideas don't result in any progress, actually result in the deaths of hundreds of millions in totalitarian dictatorships like you see in certain locations around the world. But that's happening in New York. Bunch of people just voted for that dude. This guy just beat Andrew Cuomo. Handily. Wasn't even close. And now he is the front runner over there. Now, we also have other Congress people who are commenting on this, right? Here's this dude now eating with his hands in a disgusting fashion, like a Chipotle bowl or something like that with your hands. This is America. We eat with silverware. And Congressman Brandon Gill said, civilized people in America don't eat like this. And to be honest with you, I don't think this guy does either. This is just a little, this is like a BLM, like take a knee type of thing. Or this is something, you know, this is like a cultural thing that he's showing to show his liberal people that he's like authentic is really what it is. I'm authentic. Look at me eating with my hands. Dude's been in America, you know, most of his life anyways. So it says, if you refuse to adopt Western customs, go back to the third world and eat with your hands over there. No, I don't want to hear hamburgers or pizza either. Okay, those are made to be eaten with your hands. You're not supposed to eat a burrito bowl with your hands in America. It's disgusting. I'm not even going to play the clip because, you know, anytime you hear the sound of eating, it makes you want to gouge your ears out. And we're not going to do that here on this channel. Now, here's some more from this dude. I think we've played this clip here before, but just want to confirm it that he is a communist through and through. Let's not get it minced here. Here's where he says he's got many critiques of capitalism.
Do you like capitalism?
No.
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Okay, well, what he's talking about is communism, and he's going to quote platitudes, and people on CNN are going to lap that up. Man, I like Dr. Martin Luther King. So wait a minute. I have to like Dr. Martin Luther King. I've been programmed into that. He's a good man, all these things. So I'm already, got that mental model. And this guy's talking about Martin Luther King. So maybe all the good things I know about Martin Luther King, I can ascribe to him. It's kind of what he's doing. And it's a very dishonest thing. It's not, I think, appropriate to Martin Luther King. So that is what he is saying. We've got other comments here. Here was one saying, I don't think we should have billionaires, which means I guess we just take all their capital.
You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Yeah, so his idea then is to create and give more power to the very entity that created the inequality, which is bizarre, right? The government is the entity that creates the inequality by creating special carve-outs for certain classes of businesses or business entities or too big to fail institutions or to their crony capitalist companies that they all hire to, solve climate change or whatever it is they're doing. It's all a giant grift. And then they print money, which they send to foreigners and fund overseas wars, inflating our dollars so that the American people actually have no capital and hard assets upon which they can build or save anything, right? If you could save something, then you could pass it down to the next generation. Everybody could live in a state of abundance because the rest of the world is currently using us as an economic zone. If we had a little bit of that, maybe we'd actually have nice buildings in America and not a bunch of Dollar Trees. So he is now saying no more billionaires. And without the billionaires, you don't get things like, I'll tell you, man, I've gotten more value from Amazon and Starlink and SpaceX and Tesla than the federal government. Amazon delivers. Federal government can't even answer a phone. And then I got to pay them. What do we get for all of that money, by the way? I don't want to hear, for security, Rob. Tremendous security. Okay, whatever. Obviously so. Now, for all, okay, whatever. Now, so he says no billionaires at all, even though many of those people are responsible for the most fruitful things that we have in the world because they have the capital to go innovate. But anyways, they're trying to figure out what to do with this dude. We've got Washington Free Beacon reporting on Hakeem, and Hakeem was getting asked about this comment from him about globalize the Intifada. And Hakeem looks a little bit squeamish here, like a little bit nervous, doesn't know how to handle this dude, almost like this new communist is forcing all the other communists to have a struggle session.
Globalizing the Intifada, by way of example, is not an acceptable phrase, and he's going to have to clarify his position on that as he moves forward.
Do you condemn that phase, globalize the Intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears, and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why in my campaign I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech.
Wild. Okay, so this dude's pretty good, pretty clever. So first of all, he does feel, felt, found kind of a thing, right? Salespeople use this, like when you are overcoming objections or something. Well, that's, that's pretty expensive for me, or, well, I don't think that's going to work for me or whatever. Well, I understand how you feel. A lot of people in your position have felt that way, but now all of a sudden they found that he kind of did a format of that saying, I understand a lot of these concerns about Intifada. I know you feel this way. I've met with a lot of other Jews who've told me how they felt, and here's what we found. We're going to have a new process where we're going to have anti-hate legislation, 800%, right? Nice format. Then he takes it right back and goes and hits Trump with this. And now he's going to basically label anybody who's criticizing him as MAGA, as Trump. Trump is somebody who would police my speech. You don't want to be like Trump, do you? Because it sounds like you're almost like Trump, since right now you're trying to police my speech, which is what you're doing. And I would never do that. So don't say that me wanting to globalize the Intifada is bad, or else you're like Trump.
Ultimately, what I think I need to show is the ability to not only talk about something, but to tackle it and to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in this city. We have to root out that bigotry, and ultimately we do that through the actions, and that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
But very quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president, who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed, putting them in jail for protesting. Ultimately, it's not language that I use. It's language I understand there are concerns about. And what I will do is showcase my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
Wow. Okay, so he will not condemn it at all. Globalize the Intifada apparently is what he stands for. And so we had a couple of clips here. This guy, Jacob Kornblue, was recording some of these. We had Richie Torres, who was on over on CNN. Here's a little bit of that.
Give that answer. I strongly disagree. No one's advocating for imprisonment. I mean, every elected official has an obligation to condemn hatred, whether it's anti-Semitism or Islamophobia. The second Intifada refers to a wave of terror attacks, suicide bombings, and slashings and stabbings that left more than 1,000 Israelis and Jews dead. And so when one uses the word Intifada, it causes profound pain and trauma to the Jewish community. It is deeply offensive. Every elected official, without exception, should condemn it.
In the primary, you were so...
He didn't really know where to go from that one. So he won't say anything about it, right? Ted Cruz says, globalize the Intifada is a call to violence, full stop. Words matter. Whether he wants to believe it or not, New Yorkers have got to reject this lunatic, and we'll see if they do or not. But the Democrats are in total support of this dude. We also saw this. This is Western Lensman. So some are in support of him, some are not. We just saw Richie Torres on that. We also saw it's being reported that John Fetterman is freaked about the possibility of Mamdani. Here's what Fetterman said. This came over from Max Cohen. He reports over for Punchbowl. Said the following: John Fetterman reacts to Mamdani's success in New York City, saying, I describe it as Christmas in July for the GOP, which maybe, but I think the GOP only has Curtis Sliwa. He's wearing that hat still, so he can't win with that hat on. So I think that's probably ordinarily true, but maybe that means that Mayor Adams is, going to have a little bit more of a show than otherwise thought. But we also have AOC and other Democrats out giving us a rundown on this. So here is several of them. AOC, of course, endorsed this dude. She's also from New York, big fan of communists since she's a communist herself. And here is what she said.
This isn't just about Mr. Mamdani as an individual. This is about the message that the people of New York City are trying to send to our party.
I think my concerns are well known, but obviously there are many in the Jewish community who are worried about his positions.
I'm not a socialist, and I don't believe in socialism.
What's your reaction to what happened in New York this week with Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, winning the nomination for mayor? Does that concern you at all?
Their election is still in process, but congratulations to the nominee for the Democratic Party. My focus politically is strictly winning the House, so that's where my focus is.
Non-committal, Nancy.
All right, yeah, so a lot of people don't really know how to handle it. Hakeem says he should really clarify what that means. He comes out and says, you know, I mean, I'm not going to have my speech policed like anybody else doesn't want their speech policed. And we're saying, well, it's not really policing your speech. You're running for office. And we're asking you to explain a position. And do you know how we do that? Words constructed into a sentence, formed consecutively into paragraphs, communicated through vocal cords and a functional brain. So can you explain it, please, Mamdani? No, he doesn't want to talk about it because he wants to globalize the Intifada like all the other communists do. So here is another one from Murphy saying, actually, you know, he's a pretty decent dude. He's saying some good stuff.
There are certain things that he stands for and says that I don't agree with, but I think you have to pay attention to the fact that you had a candidate in New York City that was talking every single day about the cost of living. And he was proposing really big, sometimes radical ideas to take power from folks who have way too much of it, like the big realty companies that are jacking up rents in New York City and transferring it to regular people. He did have a laser-like focus on cost of living, on shifting power to people who don't have enough of it. And I think if the Democratic Party writ large spent as much time or as big a percentage of our communications time talking about the cost of living as Mamdani did in New York, we'd probably win a lot more elections.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they spent a lot of time talking about lopping off genitals and stuff and about how everybody was a bigot who didn't like their weird, bizarre sexual fetishes that we saw on display over the weekend from their core constituencies. So, yeah, I think, economics probably a better development for them based on where they came from, but it's not much of an improvement. It's like just a normal thing to talk about. But I do agree that economics, right, and the inequality that we have seen in our generation has shifted a lot of people's faith in capitalism. It's hard to be a capitalist if you can't acquire capital to do something with and can't look at a dollar that you store away and save as a real valuable thing, because when you come back to it, it's going to be worth more than a dollar. Or when you buy, your property, build a house or something, right? Assets have value because our money and currency is hard. It's not being inflated away from us by these people. And the people who are getting the most, the wealthiest, we covered it this morning on the members only stream. The criminals, they stole $14 billion. How many billions? 50 billion to the USAID grifters, all going to the oligarchical class. If you were part of the government apparatus, you were part of the popular kids group, and you got everything that you wanted, everybody else be damned, and they all thought that they were doing something good for America. They weren't. They were hollowing out the country. They were trying to create institutions that would ensconce them in power, and their little experiment has failed. People are worse off for it. People have less. They're living less, long lives, and we're still spending money hand over fist. We're now trying to get a handle on it, and people like this Democrat are still doubling down on communism. Now, here was another exchange, short clip from Harry Yenton saying the Democrats want blood. They want to go radically to the left. And to be honest, that is good for the Republicans, right? If the Republicans are going to come back and crush in the midterms, nothing more could help them than having the Democrats really running and showing their true colors by nominating full-blown outright communists to run the biggest cities in America.
What should they take away is that the party leaders, Democrats who say they want to replace their party leaders, look at this, 62% nationally say yes compared to just 24% who say no. That lines up with the idea that Democrats view their own members of Congress, their own leaders in Congress, record low approval rating. Democrats right now are out for blood. They want to take out their party leaders. And you saw that with Andrew Cuomo going, adios, amigos, goodbye. See you later in New York this past Tuesday.
All right. So they are going to be at each other's throats for the foreseeable future. And Mamdani is going to continue, I guess, to espouse communism. Of course, we'll keep our eye on that one. And more specifically, Pam Bondi and denaturalization efforts. We'll see whether that gets any momentum. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we continue here. All right, my friends. Well, what a beautiful day it has been, and happy Monday. I hope that your week is off to an incredible start and you're just as excited as I am to get to all of it. We've got Some great comments that I saw come in. Thank you for being here, and thanks for subscribing. Members, stick around. We're going to do a members-only after party as soon as we're done here. But if you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. We had an update on the LA lawsuit brought against Mayor Bass over the sanctuary city policies. Heard from Tom Homan, but mostly went through this lawsuit, which is showing how LA created a new law, passed a new essentially statute, right after Trump won, to go and target the Trump administration by intent and effect, causing obstruction with immigration officials, which would, to me, be very similar to what the Proud Boys got charged with for seditious conspiracy and prosecuted and almost imprisoned for 20 years. We'll see if anything like that happens. But we got reaction on that. We also saw and heard from Tom Homan and heard a little bit from Ron DeSantis, who was showing us a short tour of Alligator Alcatraz, baby, for the illegals who are going to be housed there for the foreseeable future. Then we talked about this little communist called Mamdani and saw several clips of him saying communist things, like we should seize the means of production, like I don't like capitalism, like I don't think we should have billionaires, and more. I think he wants grocery stores run by the government too, which will be great for New Yorkers. We'll see how they like it when there's no food on the streets, courtesy of their communism. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And it's a beautiful Monday. Happy start to the week. I hope that you're crushing it, bursting with energy and more. Oh, no, yeah. I mean, with all due respect to Siwa, so here's a comment, right? So, hey, don't make fun of Sliwa's hat. I grew up in New York, and the Guardian Angels were heroes. They kept the subway safe. They inspired everyone to demand a safer community. The hats symbolize the angels. That's great. That all may be true. Sounds beautiful. And we appreciate his work. Shout out. I'm not trying to undermine Curtis Sliwa at all. I think he's a friendly. We want to be friends with him, and I've got nothing bad to say about him. But he's not going to win an election with a hat. That's all I'm saying. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, maybe he does win with the hat on, but he won't. I'm trying to be helpful. I'm not making fun of him at all. I'm trying to be useful, but he's not going to win with the hat on. I'm just telling you. Can't do it. I don't know if Trump could win with that hat on. If that was the MAGA hat, we'd be in a whole different country, I think. Hey, what's going on? We got some great membos coming in. Thank you for sending these in, my friends. We've got some good comments. Let's see. Those were from this morning. And here we go. What's up, Chris? Hey, this one. Oh, here it is. I almost missed it. Oh, no, it can't be Monday. Have a great day. I love you. I love orangutans, right? They're such little I just want to, just go hang out with them. Anyways, Rick D, thank you. Brian Koberger has accepted a plea deal. Wow. For what, life? That's interesting. Brian Koberger. Thank you for that, Rick D. Chris Condren. What's up, Chris? Thanks for becoming a member. Grab the members only stream from this morning. Another one from Chris. Hey, I appreciate you and your videos. Very informative and well-spoken. Thank you, Chris. Sometimes we're sitting here bumbling and mumbling all over our words like Joe Biden, but we try not to. We try to enunciate and articulate clearly. Some days better than others. Thank you, Chris. Very nice, Dono. Thanks for becoming a member. Grab the stream from this morning and stick around for the after party. Hit the refresh on YouTube as soon as we're done here. We'll see you in a few minutes after we're over. Chubby says, let's see someone make an app that follows and reports the locations of California state and LA County officials and see how blatant their hypocrisy is. Yeah, it's a great question, right? What if you were doing that with the Gavin tracker? You could follow him to the alcohol stores and the prostitution rings. Chris Condren, thank you for that. Rel, what's up? Relantel in the house, bringing in 5 members. Welcome, Stephanie. Darlene C. We got Scott Smith, Azure Sky, Liz S. Gifted members, courtesy of Relantel. Thank you, Relantel, for doing that. What's up, Mock Schnell? Hey, Mock Schnell, bringing in 20 new members. It's working, Mock Schnell. Said was having some difficulties on the donos this morning, but thank you, Mock Schnell, for 20 more members coming in. Mr. T, what's up? Christina McBride, Jackie Kennedy, Blue Bayou. We got Sean Alfrey, Casey Athau. What's up, Tyler G? Feline Fun, Jill Kraft, GSG McLovin is here. Sue Ellen, Karen with a C, Ashley Robinson, Mike Clavel, Gritty Gret, Jim Whitehead, Big Dog Mama, what's up, Little Mandy, Masonic 33, Don Bardwell, gifted membos courtesy of Mock Schnell in the house. More speed. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Don is here. Aaron should use his talent to combat anti-Semitism. Which one's Aaron? Aaron from California? There's a lot of people combating anti-Semitism right now. Joshua Dempsey. Won't ICE block use the same arguments as Waze? That's a good question. Is like Waze like the app that you can block, you can report the police? I wonder if it's on there. Like Waze for illegals? Maybe. Hey, Max Deplorable says everyone should install and say ICE are everywhere. And they're really not. So they're all looking over their shoulders. Just false reports everywhere. Not a bad idea, Max. Kimmy Hunt says, hey, what's up, Kimmy? Robert, I'm not a membo because I'm too boomer. Oh, man. But I watch you every day. Thank you, Kimmy. I tend to lurk. Could you share my give, send, go with membos? It would mean so much. Thanks. Here it is. It's called givesendgo.com/Kimmy Guy. Kimmy, oh my gosh, help Kim fight cancer with strength and grace. Kim, I'm sorry that you've got cancer. And we're going to send some love and prayers your way. My friends, if you've got some extra financial love to send, you see the address here, givesendgo.com/Kimmy Guy. And Kimmy, you're raising some good funds over there. Really glad to see you've got some support. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for being a part of our community. And we're going to send you some good healing love your way. Cancer sucks, but we know you've got this. And we know you're going to have a lot of love and healing, energy, and prayers coming your way. Thanks for sharing that with our community. givesendgo.com/Kimmy Guy. What's up, Mock Schnell? Man, YouTube has been lagging all day today. But again, as I said earlier, let's get to 750 likes so I can donate 50 more. Mock Schnell! Hey, thank you for gamifying it with the membos. Man, you're great. We appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. Number one, Mock Schnell. We got number 1, 2, and 3 right here, baby. George Garbanzo, Captain Patriot in the chats. Says, can't Trump cut them off from all federal databases until they comply? I mean, no, under the law, right? It sounds like he's got to cooperate back with them. So, and you don't really want to cut them off, right? Like, I think they'd be fine with that. Like, you want them to check. So if you cut them off, they're just going to be like, oh, great. So we'll just let all the illegals in. Like, you need to check them. You need to check them. George Garbanzo, what's up, George? Says, not sure what aggravates my colon more. An iPhone app or the fact that these immigrants have $1,000 plus iPhones? Yeah, that's a good question. So like an iPhone act to track ICE, whether that aggravates your colon more. Both are pretty aggravating on many things, not just colons for sure. But yeah, I don't know. $1,000 iPhones plus all the support for like, you know, travel and food and lodging. It might be that. Yeah, I don't know. Mock Schnell, 50 membos. Mock Schnell. You're amazing. Thank you for doing this. Bringing in 50 new friends. Let's welcome them in, my friends. Mock Schnell, thank you. We got Uncle Bubba. Tricky Vicky, what's up, Sea Soder? Koofkoos. We got Brian G. What's up, Noble Victory? Keith A. The Derpy Doxy. Bill P. Sadie's here. Gary B. Ski Nerd. Jill S. Picasso is here. Mike S. La Piscine de Levi. The V. Gary B. JK. John the Baptist is here. We got Lisa Bryant. What's up, Plantation Sensation? Renee O. XZ. Lori G. Albors. We got Adam W. Miss Rocket Softball. Official Lipstick Reader. Cleverly Twisted, No, Raina D, Chris Harrington, Diane Pone, Walter White, 4AU, Silver Smacker, Crucifix, Hugh Bowman, and many more gifted courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thank you for doing that. New members, welcome aboard. Happy Monday. We're going to have great members streams this week and a members only after party, and grab the new stream from this morning. So members, you have access. When this show's over, check out the morning show. It's not even old. Chubby says, And thank you, Mock Chanel, for doing that. Chubby, what's up? LA's loophole for the sharing of legal status is that they made it policy to not ask status or to face disciplinary action, granting plausible deniability. It's ridiculous, but the courts out here grab onto it like a dope fiend to a crack pipe, or like to a California bureaucrat to an illegal alien. FD man, what's up? Karen Olio, Stinkin' Olio, Bassholio is Cartel Olio, Lover Olio, which is Karen Bass's new Spanish name. Is that what it is? Is that? Yeah, it's pretty close. It's probably right. Thank you, FD man. Nice dono. Thank you for that. Thanks for watching over on Rumble. She is a Karen Holio Bassholio. That is for sure. ELZ. What LA is doing is the same nonsense the southern states were doing in the late 1850s. And what did that lead to? Yeah. Civil war. I think is where you're going with this. I think many of them think that we're already in it. We might already be in it. They're holding up new maps in the Mexican Senate. Spuds, what's up? Hey, maybe with enough super chats, perhaps Rob can afford this dinghy. I don't know. It looks like we need a lot of super chats. 106 feet long and worth a mere 30 million? That's what I was going to say. That's a lot of super chats. We can do it. We can do it. I believe in it. I believe in all of us. We should do it for America. $30 million Watchers cruise. You all have to go. I mean, we all have to go on it. I'm like, you're just taking people on laps every day. All right, who's next? Let's go. Watching the Watchers, $30 million Caribbean boat. All right. Thank you for the super chats, my friends. We can do it. We're also going to get an island, too. Not Epstein's Island. A Freedom Island, in case bad things happen. Hey, where's your yacht, Spuds? Says K-Bean. Yeah. That you can invite us on. Oh, it's Waldo here. Hey, what's up, Waldo? Mars Soul. We found Waldo very easily. He's right here. Mars Soul. Thank you for that, Waldo. Thanks for bringing in a new membo. Groundhog Gaming. If you support ICE and in LA, send fake ICE alerts. Yeah, every time you go pick up a pound of ice, a bag of ice, just report that you found some ice, at the grocery store. I got 2 ice here. In fact, there's 50 of them. In over there in the drawer. Don't. Fed tuition subsidies for illegals in California colleges amounts to a staggering sum. Oh yeah, no, the education, billions. Healthcare, billions. Housing, billions. Legal, billions. All of it. And a lot of people are getting rich and they're exploiting America to do it. It's really sick. FD man, every country that has allowed third world aliens into society has destroyed their culture, destroyed their environment and future rule of law to their own self-destruction. Look at the areas in the EU, Australia, Canada, and the United States. 100%. 100%. Yeah, because there's a social fabric that exists. You need to have people who agree to the rules. If everybody comes into the country and everybody wants to play their own game, some people believe in free speech, some don't. Some people will fight to the death for the Second Amendment. Others think that you should die if you have a gun. It's a society that has values aligned, right? Just like you can't have a company that is opposite. You got 2 people running things into opposite directions. Doesn't work. And that's what we're creating by our own stupidity. Knox Bierman, happy Monday, all. I have a new client who was just extradited from California on a firearms charge from 2022. They had zero problem sending him here to Texas. See? Thank you, Knox. Thank you. Knox is articulating our hypothetical that actually really happened, right? And it happens all the time. It's called an interstate compact. The states agree with each other. If you're a citizen and you commit a crime in California, Knox is saying they will ship your pathetic citizen butt right over to Texas, no problem. But if you're an illegal alien and another government places a hold on you, the federal government in this case, no, they're not going to cooperate with you because they love illegals. And illegals get more privileges and due process than American citizens do. They can drive without licenses, without registration. You can stuff a bunch of people back there in added seats and shove them on the floor. Come in illegally constantly. Beat your spouse. No one cares. She goes to court. No one calls the cops or does anything about it because you're an illegal. Who cares? Sandy, Trump should take reimbursement out of trade deals from all countries for the medical payments of their citizens. That's a great idea. Yeah. And education and all the money that we have to pay for these people. It's their citizens and all the remittances too. Like it's like 50 to 60 billion dollars a year go across from the United States back down to Mexico. So it's this fake idea of like they're living here, paying taxes here, building communities here. No, they're not. They're siphoning out money to their own people back home. Doan says Reagan was the great compromiser as well as the great communicator, and Trump is hot on his heels. Hope that won't cost too much in the midterms. Yeah. Well, I mean, if the Democrats continue to smash to the left, there will be a reaction to that, right? And they don't have a good leader. Like, is it going to be AOC? Is it going to be Mamdani? It's not Bernie anymore. They've got a bunch of people jockeying for the middle, but it's like white guys like Senator Murphy. He's a white guy, straight. Doan, what's up? Thank you for that. Yeah, we'll see. Reagan also did compromise on some pretty bad things. Hey, L, thank you for this. Hey, please smash the thumbs up to help Gouveia get his content out to more people. Thank you, L. We appreciate that. We do. We want to reach as many people as we can. We got a lot of people to wake up. Freedom Forever says, doing good job on the analysis of LA's mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Freedom Forever. Thanks for being here for 20 months, man. I appreciate you. It's a long time. Over 2 babies. NY, 75-year-old who died in custody. This is why it's a false story. He would have received amnesty 2 times in his 60 years in the USA, once automatically in the early 90s, so that's a lie. From NY. Yeah, people die in custody all the time, right? People are like taken from their kids all the time if they're criminals. So just the fact that they're illegal, suddenly they get all this empathy and sympathy. NY, smart to put them in the Everglades. There's nowhere to escape. There's nowhere to protest. And it's a conservative federal district. Masterful. Shout out to DeSantis and the folks in Florida. Hey, Angry Lieutenant. What's up, Angry Lieutenant? Bringing in 2 membos. Appreciate you doing this. David Gray, welcome. Thorin Games, welcome. Courtesy of Angry Lieutenant. BiltongUSA.com is here, reminding you about their premium Angus and Wagyu biltong. No additives, no garbage, all high protein. And over at their website, BiltongUSA.com, Robert will save you 10% off. Get your biltong. Thank you, biltong. What's up, Knox? So hilarious that the Dems have no problem killing and eating their own. Mamdani is hilarious. He writes rap songs about his granny and Indian bread. He wrote a song for Disney. Knox. Knox. Yeah. But there's nothing funny about communism, Knox. There's nothing funny about communism. Off-label podcast. Wait, did Ducey just ask why Trump didn't condemn the Globalize thing? No, I think he was asking if Trump and Pam... Ducey was asking whether it was worth Pam Bondi's time, essentially, for Andy Ogle's suggestion to investigate Mamdani for denaturalization fraud, whether that was worth it. Are we doing the condemn white supremes again? White supremes again? Oh, I don't know. It's a great question, off-label. You probably should talk about that on your podcast. You guys just subscribe to it right next door. Linda Walling. What's up, Linda? Thank you for being amazing. Thanks for the thumbs up. We appreciate you. Linda Walling. Dark Rogue says, Mamdani has too much money. I need some of that. Yeah, when you have so much money and so much privilege that your answer to your probably sense of unearned insecurity, you turn into communism and you start fighting for social causes and you want to take everybody else's crap away from them. Mamdani has too much money. I need some of that, Dark Rogue. Well, if he wins and communism takes over, none of us are going to have any money. George Garbanzo says, straight out of the communist takeover playbook, degrade the quality of life so much the population will grab any lifeline offered, create the problem, then offer the solution. Exactly right. Yeah. And this is that siren song of communism and socialism. You make capitalism so broken that people just say, well, I mean, what is it? Like everybody else has something and I don't. I have to rent constantly. I have no capital. I have to, borrow, living on credit, drowning in debt. So you're actually negative capital, right? Because you owe somebody else capital, which is the reality for a lot of people. mortgages, student loans, whatever. You might say it's your own fault for getting those things, but it's still the point. If our society is a capitalist system, we should want people to have capital, which is why we were so hell-bent on home ownership, which has now become very difficult to do. You want people to have skin in the game and be capitalists, and many are not. So they're just going to become socialists, because what are they going to lose? They're not going to lose their property. They already don't have any. They're not going to lose their capital. They don't have any. And our government made that happen by exploiting our capital and our treasure for their own profit. We can't have that anymore. This old guy, hey, Mamdani, you know, I'm not a billionaire, but I still want to be one, so get out of my way. Yeah, this old guy. I think that Elon has done a lot more with his billions than the government has done with their billions. Elon created entire new industries. The government has not, other than failed industries. They can't even build trains. Pinochet's helicopter tours. The only people communism appeals to are young, uninformed, affluent revolutionaries, but they are never told what happens to the revolutionaries after the revolution. Yeah, you can only go so far. They actually end up eating their own. I saw Mamdani getting screamed at by some other Palestinian, screaming at him. See if I can dig that clip up. Because he wasn't far enough. You said Israel has the right to exist. How dare you say that? Screaming at him, because it's never enough. The communists want it all. FD man. Jeffries has the lights on, but no one is home look. Totally. And it's been that way for most of his political existence. Knox is here. Mamdani is just playing a part. He's more like Jasmine Crockett, but much more polished. I think that's probably right, too. He does feel like a caricature of a person, just kind of well memorized lines and things. And he's almost unashamed of it, which means it's, kind of a tactic, a technique, like he's articulated, this is his persona, and I'm going to call myself a socialist. He's fleshed out, he's staked a position on this. Obviously, he's a candidate, but it does feel a little bit manufactured. Now, I don't doubt that he's a communist. I mean, I think that he's a communist, but is he going to win? We'll see. Good to see you, Knox. Dark Rogue, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. From Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, and American version of capitalism, too. Whatever we've got going on right now, which is fiscal irresponsibility, inflated dollars, poor fiscal management. Doan, Mamdani practices taqiyya in the Quran, allowing jihadis to lie, cheat, steal, and anything haram to achieve a desired religious or political goal. Man, there's a lot of words in there. Oh, in the Quran, taqiyya. I mean, I don't even know what that is either. So I'm going to learn a lot about these religious phrases since we're now entering into a global intifada. Going to learn a lot more about it. Why off-label podcasts? Why do they always use the spent ammo back at us? They censored heavily. Now they're crying that we're trying to censor a commie? It's pathetic. I agree with you, off-label. And we're not trying to censor him if he lied. Like, we're not trying to deport him because of his speech, but if he was fraudulent on his naturalization and lied about his communist ties, gotta go. FD man. The people of New York City caught the full-on effect of Intifada on 9/11, and everyone around the world did by every terror attack before and after that date. And he will not condemn it or deny it. Just says, don't police my speech. NTX Nancy, how did we get so many communists in government? Well, they've been in there for a long time. I mean, communism has been a real problem for generations now. It's in the law. It's a big problem. I think that communists have a natural, like bureaucrats and communists, I think, have a lot in common, to be honest. They create a system for themselves upon which they survive. Both of them need to do that. Communists need to manufacture this system of control in order to evenly distribute everything. They end up killing everybody when they do it. Bureaucrats are doing the same thing. Bureaucrats in many ways, like government bureaucrats in many ways are kind of communistic. It's like they take money, they try to evenly distribute it. They're terrible at it, most of them, and it's a disaster. So it's just kind of that mindset. I think they just happen to percolate and act and rise to power, almost like, you know, oil and water separating. You've got this mindset of people who are just connected in that space. Anyways, Big Mouth, what's up, Big Mouth? Thank you for that. Big Mouth in the house. Nice donut. We appreciate you. Sandy, one more time. Don't make fun of Curtis Sliwa's hat. It's a good hat. It means important things. He can wear it if he wants to, even if it means he's going to lose his election. Hey, here's one from Ben Garrison. PBS is the NPC guy. PBS is the NPC guy. Hey, Viva! What's up, Viva? Viva Fry, right next door. Rated our channel. Man, what a nice dude. Thank you, Viva. Shout out to our friends Viva and Barnes, right next door. Haven't talked to those dudes in a while. What's up, Viva? Great to see you. Shout out to our friends from Viva's channel. My friends, make sure you're checking out their channel too. Viva, Barnes. Great Sunday stream. Every Sunday. And others. Thank you for that, Viva. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well out there. FD Man, what's up? 18 to 24-year-old Democrat wants to exercise the old Democrats and hump daddy's leg? Oh my God. Don't. Why the commie mindset conversion in large cities? I think it's probably the capital problem. I think that many people don't have capital. So the idea of just getting things from other people makes sense to them because they just think that everybody has things, you know. I think it's probably that. Elaine Smith, hey, 36 months. That's 4 babies. First of all, thank you for doing the math on that. Congrats on our 4th baby. Time to up child support, Rob. Oh, no, I know. It's the check's in the mail. You're going to get it in a couple days. Thank you, Elaine Smith. 36 months as a membo. Really, that's amazing. Thank you for being here. That's 3 years. It's a long time. We appreciate you. Thank you, Elaine, for saying that. And congrats to our new baby. Hey, Ellen Fly, please listen to this Greg Kelly showing the phony that New York City Socialist is happening here. Looks like a great video. Thank you, Ellen, for the recommendation and the YouTube link. James Marino, democracy can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. Came from A. Titler. And a nice quote. Yeah, the people will just vote themselves raises every cycle. We need more benefits. Who pays for that? Doesn't matter. The billionaires will. What? Okay. Yeah, we saw that. We saw that back during Woodrow Wilson. Like, why did we pass the income tax amendment? Is because we said we were going to tax the millionaires, the billionaires back then, all the robber barons. And then we fast forward, and all of a sudden we're all being taxed. Everything. Everywhere we go. And they're still broke. So it solved nothing other than made us give a part of our lives to the government. Hey, Trolling Goals. What's up, Trolling Goals? Are judges required to explain every law President Trump lawyers provide in their court file can be used or not? Seems like a lot of unanswered questions. God bless. No, I don't think judges are required to explain every law, but they explain the critical laws, right? Like the main arguments. But I mean, some judges will go through point by point, but other judges, you know, will maybe not respond to a certain case per se, but they'll say, well, these cases are bundled into this argument and this argument is wrong. Here's why. And so they won't address point by point every single case. Some judges will. They'll say, well, in this case, the difference was that defendant is like this and this defendant's like that. So that doesn't apply. In this case, this one doesn't apply. In this case, this doesn't apply. So some judges can be very concrete and specific. Others can just say, well, we're not going to look at, you know, that division because I don't think it applies at all. And we'll just spend time over here. So it just depends. Thank you, Trolling Goals. Michael Smoke. What's up, Michael Smoke? Great to see you. Thank you for being an amazing membo, Michael Smoke. Nacho Mama, 10 months as a membo, 1 full baby plus 1, says New York will surpass California for suckiness if that guy wins. You think NYC takes over LA? So East Side comes back? Communist East Side like takes over communist Bass? You might be right. Doan, Josh Aaron, he outed himself for outing the ICE locals. Oh, the software dude. Thank you, Doan. Yeah, the software dude, the conspirator of sedition. Hey, Tijuana Border Jumper became a supporter. Great to see you, Tijuana Border Jumper. Says, call them illegals. That's what they are. I think we're pretty good about that. Pretty good. I mean, sometimes I'll use other language just because I can say illegal a lot. But I think we're pretty clear that they're illegal aliens here and pretty unequivocal about that. Bucky's is Rome says, breaking news, Idaho college student killer Brian Kohlberger pleads guilty. We'll see what that penalty looks like. Probably going to prison forever. Jonah Finn, Sliwa leads the Guardian Angels. It's required to differentiate members from criminals from the police. It doesn't make a difference a bit to New York City voters. We'll see. Okay, we'll see. The hat, he's going to lose the election. You guys can stand by the hat if you want to, but it's over if he wears that hat. Hey, Michelle, what's up? I think a 3-letter agency created the app. It could be true, Michelle. They probably made a lot of them. Pinochet's helicopter tours. District Court judge issues nationwide injunction against the Supreme Court, striking down nationwide injunctions from Pinochet's helicopter tours. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? So the Supreme Court overruled by another judge. What's up? Dark Rogue is here. Says, want to see a commie brain vapor lock? Ask them to name one person of the CCP committee that President Xi Jinping is beholden to. That's communism. Unnamed rulers that you didn't vote for. Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's one big oligarchical class and you are part of it. And the government steals from everybody and just pays their own people off. We don't want to live in that society. Navy Styles says it's called Taqiyya. It's an Islamic principle allowing deception to protect faith and life. Wow. Abused by Islamists to justify lying for political gain, manipulation, or advancing extremist agendas. Wow. So if you're Islamic, you can be dishonest and just invoke this in order to protect your faith or your life. Interesting. Former LEO. Hey, don't forget about the old TV show. I led 3 lives. I was a communist for the FBI, and his real name was Herb Philbrick on the show and in real life. 1953 to 1956 from former LEO. Great to see you, former. Tony Hay Munkets. At some point, we got to do something about these crazy people and these riots. I wish Trump would deputize us all. I'm so tired of this. You especially, Tony Hay Munkets. You should be deputized. If you don't follow the Constitution and the Founding Fathers, you're not American. You just reside here. We should have similar values, okay? We should believe in free speech and the Constitution, right? I don't need to go through them all. And if you come here and you don't believe in those things, then why did you come here? Okay, this is our country. Go back to the other places where you do believe those things. But we know why they come here, because they like our land and they want to take the country back for themselves. So, my friends, thank you for those amazing donos and for sending those in. We very much appreciate those, and I appreciate you being here. Of course, we are going to leave it there on the day. Membo, stick around. We're going to head off to our after party. We'll see you there in the members only after party, watching thewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube on the join members button. We'll see you back in the after party. But my friends, we're going to wrap it up there. I also want to say thank you to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Donut Mind Me, John in the house, K Bean, Carrie B, thank you for clipping, Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, amazing, modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly. We also want to thank G-Gum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, who help out, and want to thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, thank you for liking the video on the way out. And of course, we hope to see you back here tomorrow, because we are going to get into it again in the day tomorrow that comes after this day. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through